It's just hard to change. But I'm talking to small business owners, and it would be a mistake for a small business owner to start their journey thinking that they can't impact the culture. That would be a mistake, because you can. Not only can you impact it, you can define what it is intentionally. And just by who you select and deselect, you're constantly reinforcing what you believe the culture should be. As you can see on this slide, there's quite a bit of differences between the mind and the brain. Once you start seeing the world through this lens, it makes it easier for you to see it. The mind is so much slower than the brain, and this is one of the ways that you can tell the difference is with fast and slow thinking. If it's fast thinking, it's probably coming from the brain and the subconscious. If it's slower thinking, it's probably coming from the mind, and that's because the brain and subconscious is not really thinking. It's just impulses going through the neural pathways, and with myelin, it gets faster and faster. The reason I'm providing this is, again, so you can start seeing the difference between the two. A few points. The mind, it creates and innovates. It can design in the field of infinite possibilities and imagine new solutions, whereas the brain processes information rapidly. It executes tasks thousands of times faster than the mind. The brain can literally, with all those neurons, process at 11 million bits per second, whereas the mind processes at only 50 bits per second. When I talk about the brain being different from the mind, the brain is physical, right? We all agree that if a person dies, the mind, spirit, and soul, that's gone. The brain, nervous system, the neural pathways are there. What goes through the neural pathways may be gone. That's why, again, the mind regulating energy is a good way that I like to look at it. But the impulses going through the neural pathways, that's energy. And guess what? Thought in its most basic form is also energy. So it makes sense that people would think that the subconscious is a mind, because it feels like thought. But once you can tell the difference, there's ways to discern when a impulse is coming from the subconscious versus when a thought is coming from the mind. And there's different things you can do with questions. And part of this work is about figuring out how to discern when it's coming from the mind, which is a thought, versus when it's coming from the subconscious, which is an impulse. Now that's important, because the mind can relate the normally unrelated, right? I said the mind can create in the field of possibilities. It can draw connections between seemingly unrelated ideas, whereas the brain and the subconscious, it's all about associations. It's the past. If you look at habits were formed in the past. When you consider that the brain processes 11 million bits of information per second, that's associations. They're already there. Now, I say largely from the past because I can get into deep practice for the future. I can visualize the future and use deep practice, and I can create new associations for the future. And when I do that, then obviously those are new associations. And this is in part how we start resetting the habits. We apply deep practice with visualization, and we also move the subconscious below the conscious mind. We have to rethink the stimulus response cycle.